Welcome to Between the Lines. I'm Urszula Gacek, and today at the Leaders Forum powered by Poland in Davos, I'm joined by one of Europe's leading contemporary writers and thinkers, Jacek Dukaj. Welcome to the programme, and welcome to Davos, where high-tech, technology, AI is one of the main themes running through this forum. If you walk along the promenade here in Davos, you will see almost on every other building a symbol showing new technologies, AI.
Which can be taken as a sure sign of imminent burst, at least in financial terms, of AI bubble. We are close to this. What is happening at OpenAI last couple of days, it's read by insiders.
So you see this is getting
as
dangerously
first stage of the
large?
collapse of OpenAI.
The first, you're a writer of predictive fiction.
So many people leaving AI, main engineers, people that are supposed to lead the development of AI there, that it's hard not to make this kind of prediction. And this was the first company that entered the stage with ChatGPT and would be probably the first that leaves it collapsing in financial terms. But I make a point to distinct financial bubble and technological one, because in terms of pure technology, this is true progress. AI is an actual technology that is being developed and showing almost every day new results, new astonishing capabilities. So this will go on. But financial bubble, it's certainly it is something to consider the bursting of it right now.
You're on the cusp of literature, of course, and technology, but mainly rooted firmly in literature, in philosophy. How is AI going to shape the work you do, the creative process? Will you be out of a job 5, 10 years down the line? I hope not.
In terms of pure literature, I don't think so for my generation, because we had this good luck to be born and make a name for ourselves in an era that AI was not existent or not so much prevalent. So our literary brands belong to us as human beings, and they are of great value. People, I think, in 100 years, in 200 years, will still refer to new fiction as being like written by Raymond Chandler or Hemingway or Shakespeare, someone who is long dead, but he or she established their brand in literature as a style, as a theme, as approach to certain peculiarities of human life, and it will be the constant in human culture, independently of who or what creates this culture. So I still belong to this generation of writers that were able to become brands before the advent of AI.
So you'll still be writing, but will we still be reading?
It's more tricky. Even if I will not be writing, or even if I will be dead, it still can be said that new Dukaj-like fiction will be created.
So it'll be emulating your style?
Yeah. Not so much style as way of thinking, because I change styles accordingly to theme or convention of given book. Almost every book of mine is presented in different style, in different literary tradition, because I just choose them to fit in best way possible the theme, the ideas that I present there. But the way of thinking, the way of creating, especially words, developing ideas, those things can be learned and copied later.
So regardless of whether it will be the real life Jacek Dukaj or sometime in the future, some bot, some AI, artificial intelligence emulating your style, will there still be a readership? We are now being reduced to absorbing culture, literature, information in an audio-visual way, increasingly so,
Yeah.
especially the younger generation, TikTok reels, Instagram reels, minimum attention spans. How do you expect people to manage to work their way through intellectually, through dense, complicated ideas, which are represented in your books, like I saw after writing?
I do not. I don't expect them to do so. I think that this readership will be smaller and smaller with every generation, but it doesn't mean that inevitably we reach the point when no one reads. I think it will always be some small portion of a human population that has this kind of strange hobby. On the other hand, this kind of hardcore mental exercise can be used precisely for this purpose only, to train your mind, not as a kind of entertainment way of spending leisure time, but to prepare you
To exercise this muscle, yes? If
for
it was a
much
muscle.
more difficult task that could be seen as profitable, as giving you much more power, much more better tools to deal with reality. And this is what we are hearing right now from parents belonging to this 1%, top 1%, who are sending their kids to schools that in many ways are much more traditional and even backward.
Yes, you mentioned something very interesting about education. It is actually now the tougher schools, the more demanding schools, the schools that parents pay to send their children to. So we're creating an elite that is going to be capable of
So this is a second narrative
thinking
about this change, that it's not that the whole population of Earth will stop reading and writing. It's only those who cannot afford to train their own child from the very early age in old ways of thinking that are based on written word. And many comparisons can be made, for example, to Jewish traditions on training children in thinking in Kabbalistic terms. I'm using this phrase a little bit metaphorically, but it is actually this attitude of mind toward the reality, the whole world, that trains them to read everything as sign of something else, right? You can see it even in much more entertaining, likely matters like going to museum and looking at old pictures of classical masters of paintings. Those pictures, in reality, should be read, not just look at. They're full of symbols.
They need to be
There is
understood.
syntax of paintings. Youngsters right now are incapable of reading those paintings. They are just looking at them.
So actually, they're just playing on. They're just understanding the raw emotion coming from that picture, but not the deeper meaning.
Impressions and emotions, but cannot read them. Yeah? Because working on symbols in this way, this is the first thing that mind trained of written word learns, and this is what we are losing when we are not trained in this way. So, for example. Speeches of politicians, when you compare them to 19th century speeches, sometimes very long, like 2 hours long, they were based on literary references. They were based
Tools
on
of
very
rhetoric.
long logical reasonings.
Yes.
A lot of classical rhetoric were used. If politicians were to speak this way today, no one would understand them. They wouldn't be effective.
Probably after a few seconds when you've just scrolled through your screen, people would not have the attention there anymore.
Yeah.
But what does that say about our ability as a society to actually still be autonomous in our decision making? We are not getting, we have so much information out there, and somebody actually, we don't know quite who, and we don't know, well, maybe we do, it's the big techs, but we don't know quite how. to stop us being completely flooded, overloaded. Somebody's thinking, you know, Mr. Dukaj, he has interest in so and so. So this is the information we're going to feed him in all of his social media, in all of his digital information that he is being provided. How do we establish a sense of reality when we're being given very selective information and we're not even probably aware of it, that it's being selected for us?
The problem with the luge of information is one thing. Another thing is what you mentioned, is the autonomous individual making sovereign decisions. I don't think it is possible anymore to talk this way about human beings. There are two main reasons for collapse of this idea that was for 2000 years the cornerstone of Western democracy. One is development of something called psychology of death psychology. It happened with the discoveries of Freud, Jung, and their disciples, which basically tells you something like this. You consciously make some decisions and you think they are the best decisions for you.
Because you're operating with a certain
But in reality,
number of
something
facts
underneath the level of your consciousness, hidden inside you, that you are not aware of you, directs you, and you are not capable of changing this direction of choices, decisions. You're only being aware of them afterward, sometimes dozens of years after those momentous decisions. Yeah? So this is one thing that puts the ideals of democracy in the perspective. Another one is what happened at the end of 20th century, the development of neurosciences, and at the same time, big data and the abilities to analyze large amounts of money about human behavior, which is a powerful tool already used in many ways to manipulate us in a ways that we are not aware of, and subjectively, we are fully convinced that those are our own autonomous decisions. In reality, someone else is pushing buttons in our minds and making us do those things. And in both those cases, there are not easy ways to counteract, to mitigate those discoveries, those powers that affect us. You cannot change human subconsciousness. You cannot train humans to be lords over their own subconsciousness. It would defy the whole definition of subconsciousness. And at the same time, you cannot really expect people to educate themselves and present this kind of mental self-discipline that they will be completely safe, sheltered from any kind of manipulative influence from the owners of all information about their behavior. It is impossible because this kind of knowledge, neurosciences, big data, and the way they analyze our behavior, it moves forward. It is better and better with every year. And
so we can never catch up.
Yeah. So those are two main reasons why I think that traditional thinking about individuals as sovereign, autonomous beings making decisions in democracy or in capitalism as consumers.
That's history.
It's already not applicable to reality.
Today's
the
reality.
longer we think in those terms, the longer we trot in the wrong direction and cause much more trouble for us as a society. We should develop a new technology of governing societies, new technology of distributing power, something that is based on knowledge about human nature gathered from the beginning of democracy, classical democracy, 2,000 years in ancient Greece, to today's times, because
But does that not require that we actually have the same idea about reality? In the past, we might have disputed some facts, but we trusted experts. You write in ICE, you write a very interesting scenario of worlds with different logics, with people living in their own kind of realities. But how can you govern How can you govern as a politician? How can we function as a society when everybody now has their own reality, has their own truth, never comes out of their own bubble? What has happened to us in such a situation? Are we ungovernable? Are politicians unaccountable?
There's another way of looking at this. We always were led astray and easily manipulated. We just didn't know the way our minds work. We're not used to being so open about those techniques of manipulation. When you go back to, again, ancient Greece, where this class of sophistes, people trained in manipulating other people just by the use of rhetorics, by use of their voice, of linguistic arguments. And there were already countermeasures developed. So you cannot hypnotize masses
but that was
with
still
this
transparent.
technology.
You know, everybody could learn rhetoric. Yes, everybody could learn. Now we don't know who is deciding on this information.
So one of those methods, which is still applicable today, was something called sortilege. It was a lottery, public lottery, that allocated people to different offices. They were not chosen in any democratic process, because democratic process was already suspicious as easily manipulated by rhetors, by sophistes. But they were chosen at random. And this is one of the methods that today's thinkers also propose as something that would...
Oh, because you never know whether you're going to end up at the top of the heap or the bottom when you're creating laws or norms for society.
Also for this reason, but mainly for this, that today's procedures that choose politicians are, as a method, very corrupted. Like, ask yourself, what kind of person you would have to be to go to all those stages of development and reach the highest ranks of power today. When you look at the characters of people that end up there, at their biographies, they are not the people that you really would want to govern over you. Like, the very methodology of selecting people for politics became a wrong one, deeply corrupt. And there is no way to change it from inside, because no one inside has the incentive to change it against their own interests. So one way to change it completely is to rely on fate, on randomness, on blind luck. So and it is actually considered today by some experts. Another method proposed, if I remember correctly, by Sławoj Žižek, is to use a very primitive and transparent versions of AI that could model your own choices made so far in your life, in politics, in daily choices like buying different kind of products, and being entertained by different kinds of products of culture. This kind of AI would know you very well, and when it comes to the time of making political decisions, this AI will make decisions for you, because it won't be influenced by emotions, by those campaigns of memes,
we
fake news,
very
and so
often
on.
actually see this in run-up to elections. We see various think tanks, for example, producing kind of quizzes where you tick what are your priorities, what are your interests, where do you stand on moral issues, on
But
free
still,
market.
you make this decision,
Yes.
right?
So but would you really trust somebody to be making that decision for you? I would be very reluctant for somebody to say, now Urszula Gacek, go and cast your vote for such and such a person.
Notice how we are already on this path. Why are we banning smartphones in schools for children, right? Because we know that up to some point in the development of human mind, people are not capable of defending themselves from the manipulation of technology. But why just 16 years? What happens at 16 years? This is just a traditional thinking about age of consent. But age of consent was developed as something that functions as a it
A sense of
protects
legal
you
responsibility
against the manipulation of other human beings. So the thinking goes, if you are mature enough to deal with other mature people, you are both on the same level. So it's fair game. But you cannot say the same about interaction of human beings with technology, with AI. We will be never on the same level. So why the cutoff at 16 years? The ban should be complete, right?
Yes, because
And
quite
then-
often older people, seniors, are actually more susceptible, I
Exactly.
think, to being manipulated
So
in the
then
digital space.
you are in the position that every recovering alcoholic doing Alcoholic Anonymous treatments, you have to admit at the very beginning that you are not governing over your own decisions and desires. Yeah? You have to admit there is some higher power, or at least there should be some higher power that makes those decisions for you. And then you will be better.
Before
So, you see, we are already on this track. The problem is who will make those decisions for us. And this is when there will be no easy agreement.
So who makes those decisions now? Well, here we're Leaders Forum, powered by Poland, in Davos, and the great and the good of this world have been here in Davos. Politicians, business leaders, they still are shaping today's reality.
Or they think that they
or
do.
maybe they think. But 20 years hence, who will be the leaders? Who will be the leaders shaping the business world, the world of politics, the world of culture? Will it still be us? Will it still be humans?
Most likely someone that would know, not one person attending this kind of conferences will know of. They will be just acting as powers that be, giving long speeches, negotiating with each other, but real decision makers will be invisible.
They'll be somewhere else. Let's hope that we still have a place in that future as humanity, and that in that future we also have space to write and to read the fantastic literature that you, Jacek Dukaj, produce for us. Thank you very much for being my guest here today at Leaders Forum powered by Poland in Davos. It's been an enlightening and challenging discussion, but I very much appreciate you sharing your ideas, your perceptions, and not making this future sound too scary for us. Thank you, Mr. Dukaj.
I can make it very scary.
Please don't. Please don't. Thank you very
Thank you.
much.